Now I'm going to tell you how I got in the industry. It was hard, but yet I was determined to get into the industry on a level that I wanted. Didn't want to be a factory worker, didn't want to be a piece worker. All I want to do is get in. So, I go upstairs from the employment office because I was still well known in the building and we didn't have all that security like they have nowadays. But you had to get a pass, so I got a pass. I wanted to go upstairs and talk to Mr. San Pedro. Okay. So I go into Mr. San Pedro. Yeah, he had a lesson going on, but you know, once they give you an assignment, then they sit down and do something else. So, and old saying, I pulled him aside, but I didn't really, he was sitting at his desk. So I sat in the chair next to him and I said, Mr. San Pedro, it's not fair that I can't get into the tailoring part of this sewing industry that's so big and so wide. I said, because I'm black. He said, Jim, well, he didn't call me Jim. He said, Mac, he said, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to have to tell you like it is. The Tailors, this is a very exclusive club, so I knew what he was talking about. It was mainly controlled by the Italians. Now, they had black tailors around, don't get me wrong, but they had to go a different method of getting in. I'm fresh out of school. I don't know these methods. I don't know what they had to do to get to where they got to. But they were out there, I knew that. I mean, it wasn't that only Italians were tailors, but I didn't know the method. And like I say, I'm fresh out of school, I'm young, I'm naive, and I just, once again, the racism part hit me in the face. He said, let me see what I can do for you. He said, I'll make a few calls for you. He said, come back next week and I'll see what I can find for you. Now that wasn't during the time where we had a telephone and he had a telephone where they would say, I'll call you. You know how they say, I'll call you, you never hear from them. Because I was determined to go back and look him in the eye, face to face, and want to know why you telling me, as good as I am, I can't get in. So at any rate, time goes by, a week passes, I march right back down to the school, knocked on his door. I said, when I'm back, he said, this is what I got for you. He said, but it's a start. He said, it's an end for you. He said, my brother is the head tailor at Macy's department store for the alteration division. Now, I didn't really know alterations. At least I didn't then. So I'm scratching my head, okay, alteration. He said, but it's tailoring. It's not piecework. He said, and my brother has an opening for you. He said, I want you to go down there, talk to my brother first, and see what he has for you, and do you want it? So I said, sure. So I just left I left the school. I didn't make no appointment to go see his brother. I went straight to Macy's, which was only on 34th Street. The school's on 24th Street, 8th Avenue. Same little line of transportation. I didn't bother to get on the subway because I would have had to go in the subway and I'd have to pay for that fare. I wouldn't hop in subways anymore like I did when I was younger. 10 blocks in New York is short if you're going number-wise. It's longer when you go avenue-wise. But from 24th to 34th Street, it's roughly a 10-minute walk. So I'm walking up there and I'm thinking all along, okay, what can I expect? I had been at Macy's before. I'm wondering what to expect. You know, how do I greet this man and all of the above. So I went into, I asked for the men's department, and then I asked him, where's the alteration part? And he wasn't standing there when I got there. So I got in there and I see a big tailor shop. guys everywhere sewing. I'm saying, wow. Now this is what I'm talking about. So I'm waiting around, and then finally he comes in. I introduce myself to him. And he was the brother, like I say, of my teacher. My teacher had called him and told him. He said, well, Mr. McFarland, let me tell you what I have. He said, I only have an opening. He said, I don't have an opening here because that job at Macy's was a hard job to get, period. And most of those guys have been there for a long time. He said, but I have an opening at our White Plains store. See, in those days, Macy's only had 4 stores. They had the main flagship store on 34th Street. They had one in Brooklyn. They had one in the Bronx, in the Parkchester area. And they had one in White Plains. Now, that was the only 4 stores that R.H. Macy's had. They were under a different flagship. Now they got hundreds of stores. But then they only had 4. He said, I got a job. He said, but it's in White Plains, New York. Now, understand, I've been living in the city. I lived in the island, but White Plains wasn't even considered New York City. It was a suburb. I said, White Plains, New York. I'm thinking, okay. First I had to figure out, how the heck am I going to get there? Now, he didn't know, so I had to figure all of this out. He says, I have a job in White Plains, New York. He said, if you want it, it's open. He said, because I can't get anybody to go up there. But I understood why once I took the job. So I said, you know something? Heck, I'm 18 years old. I got a number of time on my hand. And it's for get me in, let me get in. So I filled out the application. You know, I took it to the Human Resource Office, which they just called it the Employment Division then. I took it there. And I went back up to him to talk to him about the job. He said, now listen to this. This is why I wanted to get in so bad. Remember, I'm only making $40 down here. He said, I can start you with a salary of $68. He said, that's all I can start you with because that's an entry level for that position. I'm saying to myself, ooh. $60? $68. Now I'm making 40. You guys understand where I'm coming from? I said, no problem. No problem. I can't remember what day it was of the week. He said, I want you to start Monday so you can get a full weekend, Monday through Friday. He said, and if there's overtime, they'll tell you they need you. And you can work all the overtime you want. I'm saying, wow. Not only can I work it, I can make some extra money working overtime. I know you get time and a half for overtime. I'm saying to myself, all right, my brother, we're going to take this job. So the next couple of days, I had to figure out, how do I get there? Now, understand, I live in Harlem. There's a bus that goes in the upper Bronx to White Plains. So I did me a little dry run to see how long it was going to take, which trains I had to take, and what bus I had to take. Because I found out how do you get to White Plains, New York from Manhattan. So what I had to do was, I had to take the train from where I live all the way downtown to get another train over here to go all the way uptown in the Bronx, because there was no interchange there, so you had to take one train to get to another train to go there, and then at the end of the line, the 240-something street in the Bronx, Upper Bronx, they have a White Plains bus that goes. Now they don't run like the regular city buses, they run ever so often. So I had to get a schedule, find out, okay, what's the bus that gets me to White Plains to be on time for work, because that's what it was about, being on time for work. I had to be to work at 9 o'clock. I worked from 9 to 6. So I had to be to work at 9 o'clock. The bus trip took 45 minutes. So I had to figure I would have to catch this bus in order to get there to be on time for 9 o'clock. So what did that mean? That means at 6:30 in the morning, I started my journey to go downtown, to go uptown, to catch the bus, to be to work. Now, that bus ended in White Plains. It just so happened at 8:30 in the morning. So I had a half an hour's grace in the event something happened along the way with the bus. So I had a half an hour's grace. But I had to start out at 6 plus in the morning to make all this happen. So the commute was like 4 hours. I'm sorry, it was 4 hours total. It was 2 up and 2 back. So tack that on. But that's how determined I was. But he told me something. He said, they're not really going to like you because they're all Italian. He's Italian too. He said, they're going to look at you as an outsider. He said, but Tom is the little shop foreman there. He said, you report to Tom and he will assign you. He said, but this is the job that's open. And they can't get anybody up there that can do the work. Because most all of the tailors live down in Manhattan or so, not in White Plains. So I took the job and I started out. Now, it was a trying experience for me, but it was a blissful one. And I'll share that with you guys the next time I see you. Because I want you to kind of understand what was happening in New York